Hi Year 5, I'm going to be giving you a bit of a recap for relative clauses this week as your English lesson. In your English lessons in school and at home, you're going to be doing some relative clause starters, and you're going to be hopefully using relative clauses in your work that you're going to be producing. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a recap. I know you've had loads of lessons on relative clauses this year already, but as you've been home for a bit, I'm going to give you just a bit of a booster, a bit of a jog your memory on relative clauses. Okay, so creating relative clause sentences. So we can add extra additional detail about a noun by adding a relative clause to a sentence. So here we've got a sentence that says, Sarah's eating roast chicken. It is her favourite meal. These are two separate sentences. But with a relative pronoun, we can combine the two sentences to make one multi-clause sentence using subordination with a relative clause. So a relative clause is connected to the main clause by a relative pronoun. You know most of these relative pronouns already. You tell me them all the time in our Year 5 lessons. I know you can tell Miss Froney and you tell Mrs Peel as well. So our relative pronouns are whose, which, who, that, or whom, and these sentences all below are using a different relative pronoun. Okay, so where can a relative clause be placed? Well, as you know, that if it's in the middle of a sentence, it's called an embedded clause, and if it's at the end of the sentence, it's just a relative clause. So it can be in the middle or it can be the end of a sentence. Okay, fab. Right, what we're going to do now is a little activity. In your work pack this week, or if you're at school this week, you will be doing an activity called 2 become 1. So obviously you're going to be taking two separate sentences and you're going to be moulding them together to make a relative clause sentence. So we've got our relative pronouns here. I'm going to keep them up there, and we're going to see which of these relative pronouns fit into my sentences. Okay, so first of all, my first sentence is, well, my first two sentences are, Mrs Dawson was my teacher, she taught me in Year 5. So these are two separate sentences. We need to make them one sentence with a relative clause. Okay, we're going to add a relative pronoun to do that. So here's our relative pronouns to pick from. So we could put Mrs Dawson was my teacher, who taught me in Year 5. That work, maybe? Yeah? So we could go, Mrs Dawson was my teacher who taught me in Year 5. So we could write that underneath. So Mrs Dawson was my teacher. You can add a comma, who taught me in Year 5. So Mrs Dawson was my teacher who taught me in Year 5. So that's our first one. Let's go for our next one. I have a friend called Jerry. Her house is next door to mine. So let's try some different ones this time. Maybe you can mess around with them a bit. Maybe you can cut up your relative pronouns, separate your sentences and see which ones fit inside your sentences. So I have a friend called Jerry. Her house is next door to mine. So we could, I have a friend called Jerry. When house is next door to mine? No, that doesn't sound right, does it? Let's have a think. I have a friend called Jerry whose house is next door to mine. That sounds good, doesn't it? Let's put that in. I have a friend called Jerry, comma, whose house is next door to mine. Perfect. Right, you're getting the gist of it now, aren't you? Right, last one. I like to eat pizza. It's my favourite food. Okay, two separate sentences. Again, we need to make them one with a relative pronoun. So let's try some different ones again. Remember, you can cut up your pieces of paper and just like add them in and see which one fits. I like to eat pizza. Who's my favourite food? No, that doesn't fit. I like to eat pizza. When my favourite food? No. I like to eat pizza, which is my favourite food. Perfect. I like to eat pizza. Remember to put in your comma. I like to eat pizza, which is my favourite food. Okay, so if you're in school this week, you will know that you'll get some lessons on this with whichever teacher you've got in whichever class you've got this week. And if you're at home, then I hope this has helped you. Just a bit of a recap and a bit of an explanation of the activity that you'll be doing on one of the days. So hope that helps. See you later. Bye.